This program is brought to you by FASTSIGNS of Durango. More than fast, more than signs. FASTSIGNS.
La Plata County officials will move forward with revisions to the land use code despite the often vitriolic opposition that residents expressed during public meetings last month. Hundreds of residents showed up at a public meeting to protest the first draft of land use regulations that many called an infringement on their personal property rights. And the opposition prompted the formation of the La Plata Liberty Coalition, a grassroots organization that will encourage citizen involvement in the planning process. And that was the intended role of the draft code's release.
The first module was intended as a draft, was intended to get community response and get community participation to understand which direction we're on. And it's been valuable because we've gotten both opposition as well as support for some of the regulations in there. So now the challenge for staff is to balance those competing interests in some instances, and that ultimately is what the Board of County Commissioners is going to help with, is understanding other communities and how they fall on a regulatory spectrum who deal with similar issues as La Plata County, to then provide us some guidance as to how we achieve that balance.
The La Plata County Commissioners are undertaking revisions to the land use codes to update documents that haven't changed since the late 1980s. The code will be released in 3 modules. The first identifies development standards to ensure that the county's values and vision for future growth are enforced. The second module will define the process to obtain approval for new development. And the third will identify areas for potential growth with zoning maps. This most recent effort to update the county's land use regulations began more than 3 years ago with revisions to the comprehensive plan. Those revisions were completed in 2017. The comprehensive plan identifies county-wide values like preservation of agricultural land, protection of water resources, or directing new commercial development to areas where it already exists. Within the comprehensive plan are 12 distinct planning districts that reflect geographical and social differences across the county.
A good example of how districts are different is the Planning Commission just went through the process of updating the North County. And in the North County, residents are really concerned about vacation rentals by owners, or VRBOs. That likely is not going to be the same concern as folks who live in the southeast part of the county. Their concern may be irrigation ditch preservation, expanded uses on agricultural properties that support the agricultural uses. So that's where some of those issues are different. In the North County, there's limited to no agricultural other than some forestry. So that's where those differences will be highlighted. And then the land use code, through the adoption and then subsequent revision processes, can start to further refine what types of regulations apply in different areas to support those goals.
Updates to district plans will occur simultaneously with code revisions because the initial version of the land use code is based on the county-wide plan. Regulations will be further refined as the district plans are completed.
The standards then identify the specific criteria that needs to be met, how much water is needed to ensure that if it is on a well, that it's not going to be impactful to existing users of groundwater. If it's going to be on a county road or a state highway, to ensure that the new development isn't going to adversely impact the level of service on those particular roads. The land use code now identifies visual as one of the things that need to be mitigated for commercial developments, as well as do all the district plans also identify the importance of scenic views and preservation of those areas.
As painful as the process appears to be, Meininger said updates to the 30-year-old comprehensive plan and land use regulations need to be made to prepare for population growth. La Plata County's population has grown by more than 75% since the last land use code was adopted, and the population is expected to grow by another 50% in the next 20 years.
La Plata County is going to continue to grow. We're at 55,000 people now. The demographic projection is another 30,000 people in the next 20 years. Where are they going to live? Where are businesses going to be? How are the roads going to be impacted? So we're actually preparing for the future and looking into the future. And I feel like our code really hasn't adapted to the growth that we've seen, particularly over the last 30 years, let alone what we're about to see in the next 20 to 30 years.
You can follow progress on the land use code revisions and see a calendar of meetings scheduled for the district plan updates on the county's website at co.laplata.gov. www.ccc.co.us.